thousands of students walk out of their Cambridge Information Technology 9626 exam feeling completely confident, only to stare in absolute shock at the results a few months later. I mean, they memorized the textbook, they totally nailed the definitions, but they still dropped massive points on literally the very first topic of the syllabus, data and information. You're about to see the exact tiny mistake that is quietly destroying top grades before the exam even really begins. Check out this direct quote from the principal examiner report. Candidates consistently confuse key terminology and cause an effect between data and information. Look, this isn't just some minor slip-up, it's a massive hidden grade boundary risk. When you define these terms incorrectly right at the start of an extended response, you are instantly bleeding marks. You're basically telling the examiner right out of the gate that your foundational knowledge is shaky at best. And when the foundation is shaky, the whole extended response just collapses. And honestly, this is where the stakes get even higher. Context failure equals marks lost. The syllabus explicitly states that top-performing students show a connected, conceptual understanding that they can actually transfer to unfamiliar contexts. So what does that mean for you? It means ordinary, rote memorization revision is completely useless here. If you can only define data and information in a vacuum, but can't apply it to whatever unpredictable, bizarre scenario Cambridge throws at you on exam day, you're going to lose the marks. Period. Section 1. Core differences and principles. To fix this, we really need to completely rewire how you approach this topic. The examiners aren't just checking if you read the book. They're testing distinct cognitive domains, like your actual knowledge, your application of that knowledge, and your analytical depth over just superficial breadth. Okay, let's dive into this and draw a hard line between the two concepts so you never make this mistake again. Data consists of raw facts and figures with zero context. It means absolutely nothing on its own. Information, on the flip side, is processed data that's actually been given context and meaning. Think of it like this. If you just write down the number 42, well, that's just data. But if you write 42 degrees Celsius in the server room, boom, that's information. And it dictates a very specific cause and effect relationship. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that context is the bridge. It's the bridge that transforms useless data into actionable information. Section 2. The examiner's method strategy. Now that we've cleared up that core conceptual misunderstanding, we need a solid procedural framework. This is exactly what rescues you when you're faced with some bizarre, totally unfamiliar exam context that you've literally never seen in a past paper. We call this the method mark strategy. See, Cambridge actually awards marks for your systematic processing, not just magically arriving at the final answer. Step 1. Identify the key elements from the provided texts and tables. Step 2. Apply the relevant principles. Step 3. Execute your analysis with clear, logical working. Step 4. Verify your results. And finally, Step 5. Present it all in the proper format following strict conventions. If you skip these steps, you are just leaving guaranteed marks on the table. Now pay really close attention to this. In a moment, I'll show you the examiner clue that changes the answer completely. But first, you need the framework that makes that clue obvious. Because honestly, knowing the steps is one thing, but structuring your written answer to literally force the examiner to give you maximum marks, well, that requires a very specific architectural build. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how a connected, conceptual response is built using the PLJ framework. Here's how it works. You start with your point. You back it up with evidence extracted directly from the scenario. Then you provide your explanation of how the data was processed into information. You link it right back to the overarching context of the question. And finally, you offer a solid judgment. This framework is a total game changer because it perfectly satisfies the descriptive, analytical, and evaluative levels that the syllabus specifically demands. Section 3. Flawed versus perfect answers. Let's see how this builds in a real-world scenario. We're going to look at a direct comparison to see exactly where students trip up and how you can deliver an examiner-style masterclass response. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast. Look at the flawed student answer. It just lists raw facts, it completely lacks context, and honestly, the presentation is a total mess. It completely forgets that the presentation of information follows strict conventions. Now, contrast that with the top band answer. It uses proper headings, correct terminology, appropriate formats, and clear annotation. But more importantly, it provides justified recommendations based entirely on the information presented. The student writing that top band answer is thinking like an analyst, while the first student is basically just repeating facts. I want you to actively engage with this right now. Pause and predict for a second. Think back to that flawed answer we just looked at. What critical element was entirely missing? I'll give you a hint. Think about that bridge we discussed earlier. You guessed it. The flawed answer failed to extract relationships from the text and draw evidence-based conclusions. It entirely missed the context. I want you to mentally write your own checkpoint answer right now. How would you inject that missing context to fix it?
Section 4. Evaluation and Critical Analysis.
Fixing that context failure is exactly how we cross the threshold into those higher-order assessment objectives. This is where the ultimate top-tier marks live in Cambridge examinations. We're moving way beyond just basic understanding and stepping into rigorous evaluation. The ultimate problem-solving protocol here is deconstruct, solve, evaluate. You got to actually evaluate the quality of the evidence you're looking at. Ask yourself, are there limitations to the data? What assumptions are being made in this scenario? Are there alternative interpretations? By evaluating alternatives and comparing different approaches, you prove to the examiner that you possess true analytical depth. You aren't just reading data, you are actively interrogating it. Let's rapidly reinforce these escalating stakes by looking at the top 3 fatal errors straight from the principal examiner reports. Number 1, confusing cause and effect between data and information. Number 2, forgetting to check format and presentation conventions. And number 3, providing generic textbook answers that are not specific to the context given. Let me be clear, if you commit any of these 3 sins, you are capping your potential score before the examiner even finishes reading your first paragraph. Section 5. The hidden mark killer. But here is the most terrifying part of all this. You can totally master the PLJ framework. You can avoid those 3 fatal errors we just talked about. You can literally know the textbook inside and out. And there is still one massive hurdle that trips up even the very best students. It begs the ultimate question, why do students with absolutely perfect knowledge of data and information still fail to hit the top mark band? Like, what is this invisible trapdoor that drops their grade? Well, it all comes down to one single, often overlooked element of exam strategy that dictates the entire trajectory of your answer. And that brings us to our diagnostic cliffhanger. The true mark killer isn't a lack of knowledge. It's a failure to decode. Command words decide the mark band. Think about it. If the question asks you to evaluate, but your perfectly structured PLJ response only describes, you're going to lose over half the available marks, completely regardless of how accurate your information actually is. Misinterpreting command words is the hidden cause destroying top-band answers across the world. You simply cannot afford to walk into that exam room without mastering this. Ultimately, perfectly memorized data is completely useless if you lack the context to understand what the examiner is actually demanding of you. Are you truly answering the question or just repeating what you know? To crack the code on these command words and secure those top-tier marks, your mandatory next step is our complete breakdown of Cambridge IGC command words. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ace the Exams, at acetheexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. Go ahead and click on the next explainer right now on your screen, and let's ensure you never lose a single mark to a misunderstood command word again. I'll see you over there.